Hi, and welcome to Kidney Plugged In. On today's show, we have part 2 of our interview with Suzanne Solven from Pacific Blue Cross. Today, Suzanne discusses the systems provinces and territories have in place to provide access to drug coverage in order to enhance patient health outcomes. And on We've Got You Covered for COVID, we have tips for kidney patients to help you prepare for a virtual healthcare appointment. And the virtual kidney walk is just days away. And as excitement builds, people are showing off their best, their worst, their silliest, and their wackiest moves in our Walk Like Nobody's Watching campaign. You don't want to miss more of these fun-filled videos, so stay tuned because it's all next, right here on Kidney Plugged In.
Because I was lucky enough to donate my kidney to someone in need.
So Suzanne, I thought that we could maybe delve a little bit deeper into the cost side of things, and in particular, we hear a lot out there about the high costs of new drugs.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about some of the ways that provinces and territories help manage the costs, what that looks like?
Absolutely. So there's been many initiatives over the last couple of years, and let me use BC as an example. So what they're trying to do is, similar to an individual, but governments have finite budgets, and so you really need to look at how do I manage that effectively. And really what governments are trying to do is provide access to as many drugs as possible to really enhance patient health outcomes. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, providing drug coverage to enhance patient health outcomes. But with a finite budget, they have to get back to that cost effectiveness question that I talked to you about. And so what they've done is they've brought in initiatives that manage to limit or lower their overall budget costs so that they can bring on new drugs and still maintain a finite budget. So some of the things that they've done is, you may have heard, low-cost alternative, brand versus generic, maximum allowable cost, reference pricing, special authority criteria or limited use criteria or prior approval. These are all different terms that you'll hear, and really what they are is they're just all cost initiatives to manage the costs. And they do those using experts and scientific evidence to inform them. So they're not decisions that are taken lightly, but that helps to manage the budget costs and still provide access to effective medications for British Columbians and Canadians across the country. Provinces do something similar. So as an example, one of them, the term limited use or prior approval or special authority, that's where based on the clinical trial evidence and they've decided that they're going to fund the drug, there will be specific criteria that patients have to meet in order to get coverage for that drug. And so a physician or nurse practitioner, who the prescriber is, has to apply on behalf of the patient and identify that they meet this predetermined criteria. And sometimes I used to hear people get frustrated because they didn't meet the criteria, but I've exhausted all other therapies, why can't I get access to that drug? Well, you have to understand, and it relates back to that whole approval process through Health Canada, is that a clinical trial is established in certain patient populations. That's where we know it works, that's where we know it's safe. And that's the only information we have in order to judge the efficacy and safety of a product. So that's the only evidence that the governments have to establish the criteria for coverage based upon that. If you go outside of that, really, you're almost entering into a clinical trial because the prescriber and you don't even know how you would react in that situation. So it gets to, will the drug work and is it safe? So that's how that criteria works, that's how that process works, but it's a way to ensure that people get access to new and innovative drugs in a thoughtful, cost-effective way, so it's enhancing the access. The reference pricing, initiative, or maximum allowable cost, looks at drugs within similar therapeutic classes. So they're different chemical entities, but they're within a similar therapeutic class. Therapeutic class is something like, you may have heard of proton pump inhibitors or H2 blockers, or drugs that treat like ACE inhibitors. And these are therapeutic classes of drugs, and so they set a maximum price because there's different variance prices within those different chemical entities. So it's just saying, we've looked at all the evidence says one's really no better than the other. There's no incremental benefit to this drug A versus drug B, and drug A costs more. We're only willing to pay up to drug B. So that's how that kind of reference pricing maximum allowable cost works. And then brand versus generic, that's where a branded drug is the drug that's been brought forward from a manufacturer. They're the ones that brought it originally to market, and government gives them what they call patent exclusivity or market exclusivity for a number of years, because they're the companies that invested to bring the drug to market. So they did the research and development and applied to Health Canada. After that market exclusivity or patent expires, then generic companies or other manufacturers are able to produce similar drugs within very narrow therapeutic ranges that are exactly the same drug, same chemical entity, just marketed by a different company. And they market it at less cost, and therefore that's how you get savings within the system.
I'm walking on behalf of the First Nations and Métis Organ Donation and Transplantation Network. I walk to show my support for kidney patients in Saskatchewan.
We're Kidney Plugged In, and we've got you covered for COVID. Kidney patients are one of the vulnerable populations at high risk for developing severe disease from COVID-19. One of the most important things to do to help infection and protect loved ones at this time is to wash your hands properly and regularly throughout the day, and of course before and after any dialysis treatment. Using soap and water is the single most effective way of reducing the spread of infection. Here are 10 tips to ensure a thorough hand washing procedure. Remove any hand or arm jewelry you may be wearing. Wet hands with warm water and add soap. Lather soap covering all surfaces of your hands, including the fingertips. Wash hands for a minimum of 20 to 30 seconds as well between your fingers and under your nails. Rinse hands for 10 seconds and pat dry thoroughly with a towel or paper towel. Use a towel or paper towel to turn off the tap so you do not recontaminate your hands. When using a public bathroom, use paper towels to open the door when you leave. If you do not have access to soap and water, then use a store-bought 60% alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Apply a loonie-sized amount and rub all surfaces of your hands and wrists with the sanitizer for 10 seconds or until completely dry. If skin dryness is a problem, use a moisturizing lotion. We're Kidney Plugged In, and we've got you covered for COVID.
Let's see, so kidney is a... These are my grandpa's kidney stones. They're very precious. Kidney is a bone in your back that helps you turn. I don't know, to be honest.
They don't know kidneys are vital, do you? Get the facts at kidney.ca.
One of the other questions that I did want to touch on is around the private insurance and
Yes.
and how that helps patients in gaining access to new medications or to medications.
Absolutely. So I currently work for Pacific Blue Cross. We're the largest private insurance in British Columbia. And what private insurance does is it really additionally then enhances access for people. Private insurance is usually provided through your employer, or you can purchase your own individual plan. And what it does is you can think of it kind of like a bridging. So with provincial coverage, we haven't touched on this yet, but most plans within provincial coverage, you have a deductible, which means that you are 100% responsible for a certain amount of the drug cost before the provincial plan kicks in. Once the provincial plan kicks in, usually there's also what we call a copay, where the provincial program might cover 70 or 80 or 90% of the cost. You're still responsible for a certain percentage until you hit a ceiling maximum, and sometimes that ceiling can be quite high. So that can create access problems for individuals because sometimes they can't even afford the deductibles and the copays. So private insurance then picks up those deductibles and copays, and so it enables you to get access to much needed medications. The other thing with private insurance is it's all based on the particular plan that you choose or your employer chooses, and so you can also get access to medications faster because it doesn't rely on that common drug review process and the PCPA process, because your employer has negotiated a plan that perhaps allows, as soon as the drug's available for sale in Canada, then it becomes eligible for coverage. So again, there's many different plans, there's complexity within private insurance as well, but it also enhances access to medications that people need, and perhaps much sooner.
It's a miracle on earth that saves lives too. Saves lives too. Recycle your life. Recycle your life.
Hey everybody, we're walking like nobody's watching because kidney patients need our help now more than ever, and we're showing them that we've got their backs.
Recycle your life. Recycle your life.
We're Kidney Plugged In, and we've got you covered for COVID. Doctors are using virtual care, meaning they are connecting with their patients either by phone or video conference more and more now during COVID-19. Virtual appointments can help keep you and your doctor safe during this difficult time, while still being able to address many of your healthcare needs. Here are some tips to help you prepare for your virtual appointment. First, think about where you'd like to have a conversation with your doctor. It's a good idea to choose a quiet, well-lit space without distractions. It's also a good idea to write down a few important points to remind yourself of what you want to discuss. Have your medical or care card ready, as well as the name, address, and phone number of your preferred pharmacy. Make sure you have a list of all the medications you are currently taking. Have on hand any medical devices your doctor may have recommended. This might include a thermometer, bathroom scale, or home blood pressure monitor. Lastly, but certainly not least, for some patients, virtual care may not feel comfortable at first, but try to keep an open mind. Many patients soon realize they like to see their doctor this way because it's convenient and easy. We're Kidney Plugged In, and we've got you covered for COVID.
So we've talked about how drugs are developed and improved through Health Canada, how they're reimbursed provincially, and now in the hands of patients. So Suzanne, what's next?
Well, that's a great question. It's a really important question because I mentioned before around phase 4 clinical trials. And really what that is once the drug's brought to market, it's really important to do what we call post-market surveillance. Because I talked about in clinical trials, they're very limited patient populations. It's a very controlled patient population. Well, out in the real world, people have other medical conditions. And so this complicates things. And so it's really important for post-market surveillance. And this is gaining popularity also as part of the drug review process because they actually look at what we call real-world safety and effectiveness literature. So manufacturers track what's going on with outcomes or safety issues. Health Canada, if you have concerns, you should report either through your physician, your pharmacist, or yourself. If you have an adverse event, it's really important to report those kinds of things. So it's really important to understand once that drug's out on the market, you know, what's happening out there, how are patients reacting, and is it actually having the impact and effectiveness and safety that we expected.
That's a really good point. So, you know, it doesn't just stop once the approval process has happened.
No, not
There
at all.
is ongoing and continual monitoring of the drug for side effects that maybe weren't necessarily seeing in that controlled environment.
Exactly.
You know,
It's very rare that a drug comes off the market. It's very rare that you hear that a drug's been what they call recalled or pulled from the market. It does happen, and it's rare, and that speaks to the rigor of our approval processes, which is fantastic. But you can't account for everything, and so that's a really important component that people need to be aware of.
For sure. I know when you go to the pharmacy and you get your prescription filled, you'll get those sheets that go along with your with the particular drug, and it lists the side effects, but it also mentions specifically if you have any side effects that are not mentioned, to report them to your pharmacist or to your physician. So
exactly, and I would really encourage people to do that, because it's really important from a population perspective to capture that information.
I'm Kayleen from Team McKidney. We're doing the kidney walk because kidney patients need our support now more than ever, and we're showing them we've got their backs.
Welcome to yoga class, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Yes, we have Dave Savage. Thank you. We have David C. Jones. You look wonderful. Are you sure you want to leave your jacket on?
Oh, the host always wears the jacket.
Okay. And Sydney the Kidney, you look fabulous too. Before we start, though, I just want to say briefly, you do not have to be flexible to do yoga, okay? A lot of people think that you do. You absolutely do not. Doing yoga regularly will actually add to your mobility, but it's not a prerequisite to be flexible. The other thing that's important to understand is yoga is a state of mind. It's all about clearing your mind. So all this breathing that we do, all these shapes we put ourselves into, it's all about just making the mind more relaxed and making everything stress-free, okay? We'll come to sit now. Bring the bottoms of your feet to touch. This is Baddha Konasana. Now grab a hold of your shins, press into your pelvis and sit up nice and tall. Reach through the top of your head. Take a big inhale here, and then as you exhale, start to lengthen forward, nice and slow. So don't round your spine just yet. When you run out of breath, take another big breath in.
I'm pretending I'm a tree falling very slowly.
And then as you exhale, lengthen forward again, and just keep working on folding your belly into your spine, underneath your rib cage, and eventually you'll get to a point where your body doesn't go any further. That's totally fine.
Oh, I'm really feeling that stretch. That's rude, that stretch.
Roll yourself slowly up. Oh, good, Sydney. You won that roll up. You were the slowest. Perfect. And just sit up nice and tall, and just give yourself an opportunity.
Wasn't it about speed?
It was. The slowest wins.
Oh, man.
This is always fun to realize, Jamie, to your point earlier, that it's really never too late to start a good yoga practice. And you can start really anywhere.
Yes.
I'm definitely not a practitioner of yoga, but this is really fun for me, and it's pretty easy to get started.
Now, we're going to do a wonderful, wonderful movement that I almost do in every single class I teach, called cat-cow. It's a beautiful way to warm up the spine.
There's no such thing as a cat-cow.
There is in the yoga. This is the thing. You're about to learn it.
This was like a whole back massage.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. That is exactly what it is. Really nice. And so just take nice big breaths into your lower back. It's a really wonderful way to stretch out your back body. And you can also stack your forearms here if you want to, Dave, just so that you can rest your forehead on something. Yeah. Really good, you guys. All right, are you guys ready to balance?
I can't even balance a checkbook.
Oh, you'll be good at this, I promise.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't promise. You might not be. It's okay, though. You don't have to be good at everything.
Okay.
Bring your hands together.
I have some skills.
Place your hands in front of your heart. Push into your right foot, lift up your left heel, and and spiral your left hip crease back so the inside of your thigh faces forward. And then place your left foot at your ankle and just start there, especially if you're new to balancing.
Okay.
And things will wobble and things will shift, and that's okay.
Okay.
If you're feeling more steady, you can always bring your foot up a little higher to your shin. I encourage everybody to avoid the knee, above or below the knee.
It's like someone's tickling me. Yeah, now all over my body. It feels really tickly. Is that common in yoga?
Well, not usually.
Because like when you stretch the muscles, does it feel like it's tickling you? Like I feel all the way up into the top of my head now. It's a very unique sensation.
You must just be very lucky.
I am an oak tree.
Yes. And then you can grow your tree branches up above you and really let your upper body reach up.
I'm a willow tree now. I'm a willow.
Remember to breathe. So in addition to making you more adept at balance and therefore less susceptible to falling as you age, this is one of the reasons balance is so good, because you have to also focus so much on grounding in the lower half of your body, it can actually be really grounding for the mind as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ba-da. Ba-da.
And then as you exhale, bring your hands into prayer just in front of your heart. And then steer your right knee forward and place your right foot down. Good job, Sydney. And just keep your hands in prayer for a moment, all together. Let's take a nice big breath in through the nose. Let it go through the mouth. And then bow to your own heart just to honor your efforts today. Namaste.
Namaste.
Y'all.
Thank you. You guys did so well. Thank you so much for being here.
A+ on wobbly.
Oh, good job. Sydney the Kidney, you look amazing.
Oh, you are wired.
Remember, yoga is for everybody. So please do a little practice, 5 minutes a day even. It makes such a difference.
Okay, guys, that was a great workout today. Well done. That was lots of fun.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about earlier was, making small changes in your life. So whether it's adapting a yoga practice and learning how, and we also find the same when people are trying to adapt to a plant-based diet, you can make really small steps. And so one good small step is a post-workout yogurt.
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 It's a yogurt.
It's a yogurt.
We did yoga, now we're doing yogurt. And this is delicious.
Thank you.
This is like, this is the peach one. And it's like a custard almost. Like it's really tasty.
Yeah, so we always try to emphasize that there's really no compromise when you're trying a plant-based diet. So you can really enjoy a great yogurt. If you can get the lid open, you can enjoy a plant-based yogurt.
Sydney, you need to learn to be self-sufficient.
See, I think when you're
not always going to be here, Sydney. You're going to have to figure out how to eat your yogurt on your own. I'm almost all done. Sydney, don't use that spoon, it's dirty.
And that's what happens when you fall off your plant-based diet.
What other role can patients play in this whole process?
Well, you're the most important. You're the patient. We talk about patient-centered care. As healthcare professionals, we're always talking about patient-centered care. You're the one that matters. You're the one that's being treated. So you have a role because you need to take a responsibility for your own care, but reach out to your healthcare professionals, your physician, your pharmacist. Pharmacists are the most accessible healthcare professional. They're experts in drugs. That's their training. So if you have any concerns at all, take the time to build the relationship and have those conversations. And pharmacists can do what we call medication reviews. Governments recognize that that's really important, especially for people that are on several medications, and kidney patients, may be on several medications. So it's really important to take advantage of these opportunities and speak to your professionals. Even if you don't have any concerns, it's helpful for them to do a medication review to check in with you. You may not even realize that you might be experiencing some side effects or other adverse events, and you may not have put the cause and effect together. So it's really important to take charge of your own health and initiate conversations, even during, as I said, times when you're feeling really good. It's all, at the end of the day, it's all about your quality of life and enhancing your health outcomes. That's what it's about.
Well, Suzanne, that is great advice and some very useful information that you've provided here this morning. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Plugged In.
Well, thank you so much. It's such an important subject. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this information.
For kidney patients, we've got their back.
Welcome to Kidney Plugged In, where we've got you covered for COVID. Kidney patients, stay safe. The news is changing daily. The virus is spreading. It is more important now than ever that you put your health first during this pandemic. Here are some simple but important tips to help keep kidney patients safe during the COVID-19 outbreak. Stay at home whenever possible. Wash your hands well and frequently. Avoid touching your nose, mouth, and face. Cough or sneeze into a tissue or your sleeve. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces in your home. If you are on dialysis, please do not skip your treatments. Call your clinic if you're feeling unwell. Avoid contact with those who are sick. Have a good supply of your prescription medications on hand. We are plugged in, and we've got you covered for COVID.
I'm walking like nobody's watching because kidney patients need our help now more than ever. So let's show them we got their backs. All right.